Hey
Just
everybody,
adjust it a
welcome to
little
Vibe
bit.
Dojo. My name is Jeff Batt. I'm welcomed by Destery Hildenbrand. We are going to have one of our conversations. We're going to be talking about an upcoming event that we're going to be holding in November. And this is going to be at DevLearn, where we're going to have a full day, a workshop to talk about vibe coding. So as you know, this channel is all about vibe coding. And we started thinking about what we can do for an entire workshop because back in February, we started thinking about different things that we could do if we had really a lot of time to work with people to not just, because most of our videos are just like 10 minutes where we're just showing you like a tip or a trick. But if we had people in the classroom to be able to walk through and and talk about some of the things, not only just the basics, but like diving deeper into that as well. So I wanted to show my screen real quick and kind of walk you through what we have planned so far. It's in November at the time of this recording. It is August. So we definitely have a little bit more time to prepare here. But I want to show you exactly how to get here. So if you go to devlearn.com, you hover over a conference, and then you go down to pre-conference, there will be an option to vibe code. And so this is the session that you'll see with myself and Destry. And just as an overview description, basically talking about some of the high level things that we're going to be covering during this session. But I wanted to dive in a little bit of like what we have planned so far and have Destry and myself talk about different sections that we're excited about. Destry, what are you most excited about to be able to have like an all day event with vibe coding?
I think one of the biggest things that I'm excited about, Jeff, is to be able to go through and actually take the time to show a little bit more of the behind the scenes stuff that goes into our planning, our execution, and our troubleshooting that we run into on a day-to-day basis when we're recording just those smaller videos that we put on the channel all the time. So what we get to do with movie magic, if you will, is we get to cut out how long it takes in between each of the prompts when the prompt just absolutely breaks and goes sideways on us, or when the prompt doesn't give us exactly what it is that we're looking for in the end. So I think that the ability to go in and not only start at that beginning level and really show this is how we get in, we use some of those browser-based LLM AI tools that we use all the time, but we get to see what really happens when things go really well and when things maybe don't go quite as well. So collectively, we can start to troubleshoot and maybe help everybody feel a little more comfortable and not so alone in that if their AI tool isn't giving them everything they want right away.
Yeah, there's something to say about like being able to try things out yourself, which you can just pull up ChatGPT, you can pull up Claude, and you can just go in and create an interaction yourself. But there's something else when you're working at, you're following along with the instructor or you're working with peers. And so you can ideate with other people. You can say, hey, what about this? What about that? And I think that when you're in a room with other people like that, not only are you following along with the presenter, but I think key is for people to go in and try it out themselves and to say, hey, did this work for you? Did that work for you? And really, I mean, this is why I don't cut out a lot of my mistakes in my courses, is because it's helpful to know what goes wrong and how to deal with what goes wrong. And when you're spending time in a course or a workshop, you have that time. But when you're doing a video like a YouTube video, there's not a lot of patience on YouTube for you to see and have somebody walk through that as there is like in a workshop. And I think that's going to be the most tremendously helpful part of it, is just working through those examples. But what I'm most excited about is going further. And so we can go further beyond just the chat, because when we do just chat inside of ChatGPT or Claude, it usually gives us a single HTML file. And that single HTML file is great for copying and pasting it into Rise or other applications. But there's maybe times where I need to use other files besides that. So I want to create a carousel of all my different images that I have. And my images are on my desktop. So I'm working with different files. And that's usually a multi-file kind of package or folder. And so I can just open up using Claude Cowork or using Cowork or Work inside of ChatGPT. And now I can start to work with files on my desktop, and I can create multiple files. I can create multiple pages as well. So it just opens up a lot more possibility. And having this time in a workshop allows us to guide you through that and talk about, okay, these are what the different files do. We don't talk about code. We're not going to show code. I mean, we may talk about what code is, specific parts of code, but you don't need to know code coming into this. We're going to walk you through all the different components of it. And I think that's what's helpful for you, because really it's a mind shift. It's almost like we now become the directors of this. And because we're directing and we're kind of guiding it, we're able to create whatever we want to create. And that's what the workshop is going to help us see and give us practice in doing as well.
Yeah, and I think that you point out a lot of different tools there. And I think one of the things this workshop's going to allow us to do as well is help people understand what tools work for what types of projects that they're putting together. Where does it make the most sense to use a chat GPT or a Claude, or in some cases, right, we got to pull up Copilot if that's all we have. And then what's that next level? That's kind of what you're getting at, right? When do we use Cowork, or when do we use Claude Design? You know, if somebody's never used either of those before, maybe it's like, I just don't exactly know where to get started. Well, that's something we get to do here, is we're going to build out actual projects that collectively together we'll do as a group, right? As Jeff said, you'll be able to ask the instructors, you'll be able to ask your peers. And if it's something that you've been thinking about, you're hoping to get to, and you're like, gosh, I just need a little bit more guidance, a little bit more one-on-one, hands-on action to do it. I think that this is what we're planning to do in this full day workshop.
Yeah. And I like that you brought up that, because there is a flow sometimes. Like when we're working inside of Claude Design, do we state one of the misconceptions that I see all the time is like you just create your entire project in Claude Design. And that's really, when you're working with web files, that's really not the case. You do eventually need to move over to Claude Code. Even again, when you hear Claude Code, don't get all up in arms on that, because you're not actually dealing with the code. But it's more of being able to work with the projects and being able to create those projects. And so it's kind of this evolution of like, okay, I could just try to stick all within Claude Design, but when do I move over? So we're going to be talking about, okay, at what point do you do Claude Design? At what point do you move over to Claude Code? Or even at what point do you move over from chat to just Cowork or just Claude Code or specific? So there's all these different elements that could get confusing. I mean, you've talked about this as well, as just it could be the amount of tools and the amount of technology that's out there is really overwhelming. So this, I think the workshop and the goal of our workshop is to say, okay, what are these different tools? How is the flow? Why would I use ChatGPT over Claude? Why would, what does Claude do better compared to ChatGPT? What does ChatGPT do better than Claude? Different things like that, where we'll dive into and have those conversations. If you have questions about that, that's a good time to bring those up and to have the entire class talk about it as well. Even strategy documents of being able to, okay, let's now templatize this. There's a whole nother level after it's inside of Claude, where you can then start creating, if it's something that's a repeatable task, a reusable task, you can create something called a skill. That is, you define exactly what needs to happen in that flow. You then prompt the skill, and then it asks you questions. It creates the new content for you. So there's things that you can set this up to be even quicker and even faster, that with the workshop, we'll have enough time to kind of dive into that.
Exactly. And you brought up a really good point, the repeatable aspect of it. And I think that one of the things that we do a lot when we're just working together or working separately on our actual projects versus some of the videos is that we both have a semi tool agnostic workflow or process that we use on a regular basis. I know from my perspective, I have a plan that I use, whether I'm using, ChatGPT, whether I'm using Copilot, whether I'm using Claude, whether I'm testing out new tools that are available. I have a process that I use, like a repeatable process that gets me from, okay, here's where I start. Here's how I make those edits. Here's how I adjust. And then here's how I troubleshoot. And then here is how I start to really kind of work through what that final product looks like. And I think everybody will benefit coming to this workshop, because they'll leave with a pretty much a tool agnostic sort of process, so that you can use whatever tool you have at your disposal.
Yeah, and even after that, we'll talk about, I want to spend some time on how do I track this, because we're creating some of the content and we're using AI to create like a learning interaction, whether it's a full course or not. How do I actually track it? And that usually, I mean, comes down to like anything that we create here in the learning and development world is we want to be able to track. We want to know what the learner has done. And so there are templates, there's frameworks that are kind of set up that allows us to go in and to track that, but not, I mean, in my YouTube videos, I show some of that, but I don't show how to customize that. So if you want to take like a quiz question or something, or like a game question, and you want to turn that into a SCORM track quiz question, we're going to spend time on the workshop to be able to do that kind of thing as well. So there's a lot. We can even dive into like Lovable, where we're creating full applications with login. I mean, there's just so many different possibilities that we can dive into, just depending on the amount of like the pace of everybody. So there's a lot that we could spend probably 3 days on, of like creating different content or talking about different ways to vibe code and so forth. Even an area that I would love to dive into if we have enough time is like AI agents, where it creates like some of the logic for us, not only the repeatable steps, but it says we can add like, okay, if this is this situation, then you do this, and you give it instructions on how to react in different situations, so you don't have to repeat yourself across several projects, not just within that one project as well.
Yeah, and I think that one of the things that this workshop format gives us the ability to do is to really kind of introduce a lot of these things to you if you've never really had a chance to see them before. Maybe you live your life just using some of the different browser AI tools. There's nothing wrong with that. But we talk about Lovable, or we talk about some of the other bigger platform things that are out there. Maybe you've never had a chance to explore it. And a workshop like this gives us an opportunity to open it up, show you how it works, and expose you to some of these other tools that maybe you've been like, hey, gosh, I'd love to get into that, but I just am not quite sure where to start. Or once I get in there, I'm not 100% sure how to move forward with the things that we're doing. And I think the fact that we have experience in all of these different places gives us an opportunity to look at those different tools, to talk a little bit about what does it take to do a database, right? How do we host content in a Git repo, right? There's a lot of these different terms and different things that we'll touch on, and it's okay if you don't know those things to start off with. I know it sounds like it's a lot of stuff, but when you start working on these projects at the scale at which we work on them and that you want to get to, you're going to start to see that all of these things follow a pretty linear path, right? It's an agile workflow. Don't get me wrong. Like we're ideating, we're iterating, we're doing all kinds of stuff, but there are, hey, we got to figure out, what does it look like? Where does it stay, right? That's where we start talking about the repos, and we talk about the databases. How are we going to get information back and forth? How do we save it and export it in a way that is functional for us as learning developers? How do we get it into SCORM? How do we look at some of these other pieces that, again, it sounds like a lot of stuff, but it's really a flow that really kind of naturally lends itself to all of these different concepts. And I think that's another really huge piece to this, is that we can introduce and really show how it all goes together.
And I think that's one thing that for people to realize is, AI can do a lot of the work, but AI is creating the same type of content that web developers have been creating for years. And if we're creating these custom interactions, we need to at least be aware of some of the things that web developers have been aware of for years, like how to host things. We don't Doesn't mean we need to get into code. Doesn't mean we need to dive into all of those different technical aspects. But there are some things where we need to at least be aware enough to be able to upload it to a server, or what is a server, or what is a database, and how do databases work, and things like that, like you're talking about. So that's the kind of thing, is we're going to give you the enough terms, enough exposure for you to be able to know what to do to go back to your organization, and to have templates and specifically Claude skills and other types of things that you can then start to implement in your instructional design or your e-learning development. And that is really to help you get started. I don't see you becoming an expert just in one day, but you at least have a foundation enough to be able to go in and to reuse this and to explore more. That's really where the learning comes, is exploring and to testing it out in your own kind of environment, in your own development. But this will give you a jump start into that.
I think another big piece of this too is that once you come to this workshop and you sort of see everything that goes into it, you're going to be able to better plan how you're going to upskill yourself or how you need to upskill your team so that everyone can work on the things that they need to work on. Maybe this isn't a one person show where you go or where you head back to. Maybe it's like, oh, you know what? We should really bring in someone else to help with this flow. Not only are you going to leave with a process, but you'll leave with the knowledge to know in a weird way what you don't know or what you might need more help with once you get back and start doing these projects yourself.
And I'm excited to be able to teach this with you, Destry, as well, because we both come in. We're both a little bit more development minded, but we come in at different levels. And so you come in more from the instructional design world. So you were trained as an instructional designer. I kind of came in as a web developer. So I was trained as a web developer. This is back in the Flash days, and so that will tell you something. But this will. We come in from different aspects, and I think that's okay. So you will bring it back. I mean, you always kind of bring it back in our conversations of like, what does this actually mean, or how does this actually apply to the learning and development world? But I like to also show the possibilities of like, yes, you can go beyond this. So even though we're just talking about this, it could lead you to this as well. So creating full applications, our vibedojo.ninja, learningdojo.ninja websites were all vibe coded. Completely vibe coding. I didn't touch a line of code for any of those. And that's the type of, you could build like a full LMS. So that's the possibility. If you start to go down this route, there's a lot of possibilities, but let's also take a step back and you can kind of help balance that in our conversations of like, what does this mean to our everyday kind of learning and development world here? And so I think it's going to be a good balance of between the two of us to be able to have that conversations instead of just one of us where I'm going all technical and we're not taking a step back. So I think it'll be a good combination there.
I think so. And then everybody will have questions in both spaces. So you will have an expert there in both spots that has seen some things, has been around and been working in this space for, I don't want to date Jeff here, but I've been doing it for almost 20 years, right? So I've seen it come, I've seen it start from the very beginning. I was around when SCORM was first born. I don't even want to talk about it, but that's, you see it, and you want to know, how does this apply? Like, where does this fit? How does this get into my LMS? How does this support the things that I currently have as platforms or tools? And those are all questions sometimes that are really hard because if you build something awesome, how do I get it to the people? So yeah, there's a lot of different opportunities here to really see that process, to see that repeatable process, and also along the way, learn, understand, and recognize where these tools and the different functions that they have really live.
Plus, you can see how we banter and see our bias as well. So, I mean, we've already have a competition. We did this in our last conversation of ChatGPT versus Claude, which I still don't know how ChatGPT won in that situation, but
it was the prompting prowess of this dude right here. No, I'm just kidding.
I blame the prompt because you gave me the prompt, so I blame the prompt.
I rigged it from the beginning.
I mean, we like to have fun. We like to have so. I mean, we'll definitely talk about Marvel and Disney at some point. I mean, that's just bound to come up with us as well.
Always.
But yeah,
yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think that it's one of those things that it's not like a serious, stressful conversation either. It's an easygoing, how do we make this work for everybody? And that's really the goal. Like Jeff said from the beginning, we're not teaching coding. What we're teaching is how do we use these tools to enable and enhance our existing skills to do the things that previously we just weren't able to do. How do we get the ideas out of here and into experiences, into different scenarios, and how do we get that out and working in the ways that we want to? And this is just something that we just haven't had this ability before. Just until these AI tools became available,
Yeah.
We could dream big, but we were limited by. I just don't know some of those different things. And now that's really kind of changed.
And that's why I'm most excited about an all-day event, because last year I did speak on vibe coding at DevLearn, but it was just an hour. So I tried to run through as quickly as possible all of the different possibilities. but it was just so little time compared to how much you can do. And that's really why we approached, both Destry and I approached the guild and talked to them about our vision of like, hey, there's just so much more that we can do here that an hour is not going to be enough. And so that's why we proposed it as a workshop, to be able to spend more time on that, to dive into it more. So we're really excited about that. We hope it lands with you, just talking about, what's possible here. Feel free to leave a comment down below in the video if you like, I would love to see this, I would love to do that, or are you going to cover this? We have plenty of time to still work that kind of stuff into our presentation. So that's really the goal. That's really the idea, is spend a lot of time on vibe coding to really help you get the skills to go to the next level as a learning developer. That's our whole goal as a channel. And to be able to spend a whole day on just that gets me really excited about that. So any other kind of final thoughts that you want to wrap up with here?
I would just say that regardless of your skill level, everybody's welcome, and everybody's going to leave with something, right? They're going to leave with the knowledge. They're going to leave with projects. You're going to leave with plans. You're going to leave with prompts. You're going to leave with the things that you need to be able to get started, continue your journey, or refine wherever you're at along in the skill development that you have within these AI tools.
And if anything, you're going to leave with a dad joke generator. So this is horrible, but it's also fun.
I'm not sure that's the selling point you want it to be. I don't know.
It's probably not, but it is also it's fun because like there's times when we're prompting where we have to wait for it. We have to wait for it to generate. So typically what I do, and maybe Destry, this will be a challenge for you. You come up with a different tool, but I came up with a dad joke generator that basically I can switch over to, and was all vibe coded. And then I can just hit generate, and it will tell through 11 labs, it will actually say the joke out loud and then the punchline. So I'll give you the link for that too if you come.
Yeah, I feel like we need something that's maybe like an 80s movie reference, or a Marvel universe reference, right, for the movies or something. Like how do we incorporate some of these other pop culture things inside of there as well?
Here's the thing. You can vibe code a challenge. So quiz question challenge where you can send out the link. So you can say, while we're waiting for this prompt to generate, this is why I like vibe coding. But while we're waiting for this prompt to generate, here, answer this question. Who knows the answer to this? And we can have a leaderboard and different things. So yeah, there's a possibility there.
I love it. So not only will you be, is it functional and you'll learn, but it's also going to be fun, right? Dad jokes aside.
Yeah. Hey, some people enjoy dad jokes.
Yeah, they do.
And the older I get, the more I appreciate it.
And hopefully some of those people come to our workshop.
Oh, not everybody. Not everybody.
Exactly.
That's okay.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, again, if you have any other comments, feel free to leave those in the comments below the video. We hope I'm going to post this both on the Learning Dojo channel as well as the Vibe Dojo channel as well. But if you do want to check out more, check out one of those, vibedojo.ninja or learningdojo.ninja. We have a lot of resources. We'll have a link to DevLearn. You can also just go right to devlearn.com as well. And then when you sign up, it is a workshop. So make sure you select the workshop, and you will see, I think we're the first on the list too. So you can see that there. But we're excited about it. Hopefully you are too. Hopefully we see you in Vegas in November. But that's all we have for today. So thanks everyone. We'll see you next time.
Take care.